In life, science, and everything, there are the big questions and then the really big questions. In that second group are things like, what's real? What happens before you're born or after you die? And is it possible to travel in time? In today's video, though, we're pitching two of the greatest, most fundamental questions against one another. Do aliens exist? And does God exist? This is Unveiled, and today we're taking a closer look at the ultimate head-to-head. God versus aliens. Which has more proof?
Do you need the big questions answered? Are you constantly curious? Then why not subscribe to Unveiled for more clips like this one, and ring the bell for more thought-provoking content.
It might be argued that the human quest to truly understand the universe has led us down two distinct paths: the spiritual journey in search of evidence for God, and the scientific exploration of the potential for extraterrestrial life. In both cases, what we're really doing is trying to find something more than just life as we know it on planet Earth. These parallel pursuits not only shape our understanding of physical existence then, but also of how we think about ourselves and our place in the world and reality. Coming up, we'll delve into the historical perspectives on proof of God, the intricate intersection between faith and science, and the compelling modern-day search for extraterrestrial life, always aiming to answer the question, God versus aliens, which has more proof? So let's start with God. And importantly, we're not imagining any one particular God. Here, God is a catch-all term for any believed to be higher being that might be watching, guiding, creating, or judging us. The search for evidence of God has pretty much been a constant throughout most of human history. Although the beliefs themselves have differed, and the stories about God are often at odds with each other, every major civilization we know of has at some point sought answers. Through scripture, philosophical debates, through prayer, worship, by focusing on certain seemingly sacred locations, and via the celebration of any number of mystical experiences. However, while religious belief or faith often transcends the need for empirical proof of anything, there are some historical examples that provide glimpses into humanity's attempts to definitely validate the existence of a higher power. In medieval times, the teleological argument, often associated with St. Thomas Aquinas, posited that the complexity and orderliness of the natural world were evidence enough of a divine creator. The rich mechanisms of life, from the varied beauty of biological organisms to the endless precision of celestial movements, were seen as manifestations of God's design. Although that explanation is still a little woolly to most modern minds, it did mark the beginning of a move away from the even vaguer ideas on God being unknowable or on God working in mysterious ways. It also bred the often-cited watchmaker analogy, first put forward by the British clergyman William Paley in 1802, wherein God is pitched as the watchmaker of the universe. Clearly, though, just calling something God's design or just rebranding God as some kind of master technician does little to actually prove that God exists. It was during the Enlightenment and the scientific revolution that things started to change, particularly as many who were leading the scientific charge were also dedicated believers in God. Figures like Sir Isaac Newton, a devout Christian, famously made major contributions to physics. Newton's laws of motion and universal gravitation, which essentially explained why and how everything moves as it does, were seen by some as revealing the underlying order imposed by a divine architect, i.e., by God. On the other hand, however, and despite any religious views he may have had, Newton's work was such a milestone because it encouraged others to probe deeper and deeper into the universe around them, which in turn led many to doubt the religious systems that had until then been unquestioned. Arguably the most famous episode of apparent conflict between both modes of thought came a couple of hundred years later with Charles Darwin, who's said to have struggled between his religious beliefs and his realization regarding the theory of evolution. Meanwhile, in the contemporary era, we've seen prominent theistic evolutionists such as Francis Collins, the former director of the National Institutes of Health in the US, and a leading geneticist. During his career, he has consistently been seen as a high-ranking example of someone who reconciles science with religion, once describing himself as a, quote, serious Christian. On the one hand, Collins is a key figure in the history of the Human Genome Project. On the other, he founded the BioLogos Foundation, a group dedicated to the belief in evolutionary creation, which, among other things, argues that God is directly involved with or responsible for evolution. Over the years, we've seen similar apparent crossovers across almost all fields of science. The German astronomer Johannes Kepler believed that he was only ever contemplating the universe after God had created it, as a way to share in his thoughts. The British mathematician and father of the computer, Charles Babbage, mentioned in his writing a belief in divine energy, as well as in miracles, and in general the creator God. The astrophysicist Carl Sagan famously discussed the cosmos from the perspective of Hinduism, suggesting that perhaps it, above all other religions, got it most right, once describing Hindu teachings as a, quote, premonition of modern astronomical ideas. But still, it remains that almost all of the above amounts to interpretations only. Some viewpoints cater for God and science, others don't. Many influential figures have either had religious beliefs or spoken about a religious view, but no one has so far been able to offer up absolute proof that God is real. Of course, faith is a deeply personal and subjective experience. It just doesn't adhere to the rigor of the scientific method. And perhaps if a God were proved, then religions would fall because of it. Or that God would no longer especially qualify as a God, more just another part of the physical world. So let's now switch to aliens. And to some degree, the search for extraterrestrial life might currently be pitched as science's religion to begin with. Scientists are constantly looking for proof of something that they so far haven't found. As the Fermi paradox famously encapsulates, there's an apparent contradiction between the high probability of extraterrestrial civilizations existing and the lack of tangible evidence for or contact with those civilizations. Believers in God may well argue in a similar vein, although here, with the hunt for aliens, we are wholly rooted in the principles of observation, data analysis, and the scientific method. The ET search involves a combination of disciplines, including astrobiology, astronomy, and planetary science. There's also the Drake equation to measure by, formulated by astrophysicist Frank Drake. It attempts to estimate the number of advanced civilizations in our galaxy by considering factors such as the rate of star formation, the fraction of stars with planets, and the likelihood of life emerging on suitable planets. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI, then involves scanning the cosmos for signals that may indicate the presence of intelligent beings. The use of radio telescopes and other advanced technologies allows scientists to sift through vast amounts of data in the hope of detecting artificial signals amid the cosmic background noise. Recent advancements in astrobiology provide additional food for thought. The discovery of extremophiles on Earth, organisms that thrive in extreme environments, has expanded our understanding of potential habitable zones beyond Earth. The identification of exoplanets in the habitable zone around their star, where conditions might allow for liquid water and potentially life, adds fuel to the belief that the universe could be teeming with diverse life forms. And of course, with alien life as opposed to God, we do at least have one seemingly comparable example to go by: us. While it's true that alien life, if and when we find it, may be nothing quite so humanoid as ourselves, it's also true that we do at least know that things can be alive, seeing as we have a whole planet, Earth, to demonstrate just that. Nevertheless, and despite our best efforts, the so-called Great Silence persists. Aliens, as with God, are yet to reveal themselves to us. The discovery of potentially habitable exoplanets, like Kepler 452b, may have fueled optimism about the prevalence of life beyond our solar system, but the leap from potential habitability to the actual presence of life is still huge. Similarly, the detection in recent times of methane and organic salts on Mars certainly has sparked excitement about the possibility of past or even current microbial life there. The confirmation of liquid water beneath the icy surface of moons like Europa and Enceladus has had us further picturing new life comparatively close by. But again, while it may feel as though we're forever on the brink of a major discovery, we still have to actually make that discovery before it can be said that we have proof. So what's your verdict? In comparing the proof of God and aliens, one thing that is clear is that these goals are found on different planes. Religious belief relies on faith, as well as personal experience, scripture, and philosophical reasoning. In contrast, the search for extraterrestrial life is outwardly scientific from the start, always demanding proof as standard. It may be common to ask, do you believe in aliens? But for the scientists who are fronting the search, belief actually has nothing to do with it. They're simply testing hypotheses to deliver results. Science doesn't have faith that aliens are out there, it just increasingly strongly suspects that they are. So on the face of it, it might be said that aliens have more proof, because we now have plenty in terms of potential planets they could live on, potential vehicles they could pilot, and potential means by which they might survive. But still, in terms of undeniable evidence, we're ultimately at the same stage with aliens as we are with God. There's nothing. Perhaps what the debate serves to highlight most of all is the multifaceted nature of the human quest for meaning, whether that's within the depths of our souls or far out among the stars.
What do you think? Is there anything we missed? Let us know in the comments. Check out these other clips from Unveiled, and make sure you subscribe and ring the bell for our latest content.